Hello there.
Welcome back, my friend.
Hello, what have we here?
Jedi, we've been expecting you.
Knew I could count on you.
Hello.
Welcome to the rebellion.
What fun!
Hey everyone, Hybrid here with this week's episode of Black Series of Yesteryear, the retrospective series where we talk about Black Series waves of, well, yesteryear. Today we are going to jump into the 10th wave of the red and black packaging from all the way back this wave would have come out in early 2017. This wave features a ton of repacks, so I'm going to pad it out with a couple of store exclusives that came out too. And those are going to be some fun things to talk about because they really did a good job on getting the exclusives spread out for this Rogue One era. And we are definitely getting back into the swing of things after last week being a bit of a mixed bag with our Rogue One figures, because Wave 10 contains 4 repacks from the Rogue One movie and then 2 new figures. So I'm going to just lump all the repacks into one thing right here. This is like our third or fourth go of getting Jyn Erso and Cassian Andor. They were already on pegs everywhere. Many, many pegs deep of these figures at any store you would go to. And Hasbro decided that we needed more of them, to the point that these figures are worthless today. So yeah, that was a choice for sure. Also reissued from the first wave is the Imperial Death Trooper, and at the time it was kind of nice being able to find the new trooper, being able to start picking it up on a deal. If you wanted to army build Denny, I was rocking a squad of 8 there for a while, and other than the first couple I picked up, most of them were picked up on a deal. It was a figure that was okay for the time, but it's definitely aged poorly in my opinion. And it's one that I would like to see a redo, because it's a really cool design. I think modern Hasbro could absolutely nail it. But, just for the time, he's very skinny. The articulation's a little frustrating. I think it could be done a lot better. And then our other repack is Director Krennic, who has only just recently been reissued yet again, but with a photoreal update. I have nothing really horrible to say about this figure. It's got somewhat limited articulation, being from the era that it's from, but he's a guy in an Imperial officer outfit. You don't see him do anything too crazy in the movie. He gets around. He uses his gun a bit. But, he's not doing any, crazy gymnastical, stunts. So, I'm not the biggest hater of that figure, but the photoreal fixes it, and it would have been nice to get a soft goods cape on him somewhere along the way. But in his Rogue One outfit, we have yet to have that. So, to jump into our new figures, there are 2. Our first one being Red Box number 36 is Chirrut Îmwe. Now, this guy was really cool in Rogue One. He showed up and is a believer and worshiper in the Force, despite the fact that he was not born with the sensitivity. Or was he? They always tease that maybe he had just a little bit of it. This guy was really, really cool. He had that cool walking stick and that fold-up bowcaster, and those accessories came across nicely here. He is soft goods from the waist down, which really frees up his articulation to get him into some really cool stances where you can have him whacking on those stormtroopers with that walking staff of his. Really, really cool stuff here. I do generally like this figure, as the rest of the crew from Rogue One has gotten. He has gotten the photoreal upgrade in recent years. And but I will say the painted face for this era was not the worst painted face. It was pretty recognizable who he was when you got this figure. And yeah, he was just a really cool figure, one that I was glad to get on shelves. It was a little weird getting him so far after the movie, after getting 5 Jyn Ersos and Cassian Andors, but they finally got him out. And then going on to Red Box figure number 37 is Baze Malbus. And Baze Malbus is pretty cool. He is a big beefy dude who carries a ginormous minigun, that's being fed ammunition from a big barrel on his back. Admittedly, not an insane amount of character to this character. He's just Chirrut Îmwe's friend, and he's lost faith in the Force, but he gets it again in the end. and he has a big gun, and that's him. That's like the entirety of this guy. But his figure came out really good. He's got his like tan jumpsuit done really well with the red armor plates, the red accents on the gun, and the barrel look very, very nice. And he has a cool little like a shock accessory that hangs out on the back of his belt. It's like that little like handheld taser thing, and it's just a really good figure. They really capture all the beats that you would need to know about the character. And again, for one of the pre-photoreal painted faces, it was actually pretty recognizable for the time. But, of course, you can pick up the photoreals of either of these guys for much cheaper than retail at this point. So if you were going to get one, if you don't have either of these guys yet, that definitely would be the way to go, in my opinion. And now to talk about some store exclusives, because otherwise this would be our shortest episode yet, despite only having 2 new figures in this wave. There were 2 retail exclusives that were just like a single packed figure, and I would like to bring those up. I had already brought up the Shore Trooper from Walmart in a prior episode, so coming out shortly before the movie, so this would have been somewhat old news by the time this wave dropped, but Toys R Us got an exclusive Imperial hover tank pilot. This guy features a lot of the pieces that you would get on the Shore Trooper, almost the same body, excluding the belt and the helmet, and he comes with some really cool weathering. Now, there was 2 hover tank pilots in the movie. This one, and then the more prominent one featuring stripes on the shoulder pads indicating that he was like a commander or whatever. We never ended up getting that guy, although we did get this guy repacked in the archive line somewhere along the way. This figure was always really cool. This was one of those figures where the trooper articulation started getting a lot better, which is bizarre because he came out around the same time as the Death Trooper, and I really want an upgrade because that's not so much the case. But this guy has some really good articulation and really, really looks the part. And yeah, he's a little bit of a more niche trooper. I don't hear a whole lot of people talk about him, but he is a pretty cool figure all the same. And then the other exclusive, and this is one that I can share a little bit of a story on, is the Imperial AT-ACT driver, AT-ACT driver, and this is the same figure from the neck down as the prior one with some different paint, but he's wearing a Shore Trooper helmet in white. I don't think we actually saw these guys in the movie. There may have been the most incredibly brief flash of seeing one sitting in the cockpit of an AT-ACT, but we didn't really see a whole lot of those in the movie either. And this figure was bizarre. I remember back in the day, this figure did not get announced. It was a Target exclusive, and someone just went to Target one day and found it on the shelf and posted it online, and Yakface shared it. And I was like, an unannounced figure at Target? No way. And so I went to Target, and there was like 20 of this guy on the shelf. And they did not move all 20 of them. They were on clearance pretty quick. But it was just really weird, having a figure get like no announcement and just show up, and be a trooper at that. I happily grabbed 2 because why not? The articulation on this guy was good, and I was pretty high on Rogue One at the time. So I was happy to pick it up. But yeah, just a bizarre release on this one, ultimately. One of the odder drops from back in the day. And again, a figure that no one really talks all that much about. I feel like this guy's brushing the edge of obscurity, even for modern media. So, there we are. I've talked about a few figures now. I've talked about Wave 10 and a couple of store exclusives just to keep it fresh and exciting. What do you think? Did you pick up any of these figures back in the day? Have you picked up any of the reissues of the 3 that have been reissued? Let me know in the comments below. Let's have a cool conversation about that. Thank you for watching my video, and until next time, may the Force be with each and every one of you. I'll see you next time.